just remember we are proud of you.
I have to agree with the comment section. This didn't age well. I got a lot of requests to do an update on my Woojin video, and this kind of led me on a completely different path of research than I was expecting. You guys have no idea how many times I had to redo this whole thing. Hi, I'm Nim, and firstly I want to apologize for the robot voice. I've been sick for almost a month now, but luckily it's not COVID. I wanted to go over a few quick disclaimers before we get to what you're all really wanting to know about Woojin and why I don't think anything will come of this situation. Firstly, I got comments asking me to remove any affiliation of Stray Kids in my last video. I understand where you're coming from, but I decided only to change the title to be less misleading. That video was covering the time period when Woojin left the group and includes some elements that are only relevant to them. As much as we all want to forget it, Woojin was in Stray Kids, and I posted it way before the allegations came up. So I'm leaving that video as it is. I will not be including Stray Kids in the title, tags or thumbnail of this video since this all happened after he left the group, so it has no direct connection to the group. This is also a trigger warning. I will be discussing sexual assault and just a lot of upsetting information pertaining to Woojin's case specifically and on a more broad spectrum. Since it's a difficult subject, I'll be including timestamps for this video so you can pick and choose what you want to hear. I also do not condone any hate to anyone involved. I remain neutral on this, especially because I don't want to get sued and we don't have all the facts. The only hashtag I'm appreciating in my comment section is #NateIsFate. Chan said himself that he doesn't want hate to go towards Woojin for when he left and that stay is better than that. Although this is a more serious topic, please remember cyberbullying is still a crime. Instead, check out this amazing Save Me teaser and let karma take care of the rest. One last thing, to make things easier, I'll be referring to the Twitter user that came forward as A1, the person they are accusing as W, and I will be calling Woojin by name about information that directly pertains to him. Here are the timestamps, let's go. I'm sure you all know what happened. If you want a quick refresher or rundown, please check out one of these very helpful videos. I've noticed a lot of misinformation out there, too, so I'm going to start by analyzing the posts by both parties before I address anything else. I want to quickly point out that A1's account was not necessarily deleted but has been speculated to have been mass reported. So any accounts that have popped up with a similar handle I wouldn't necessarily trust. Sadly, some people will do anything for attention, including taking on someone's assault story. What really creeps me out is that A1 says his friends know what happened. If it is Woojin, I don't think it's Stray Kids that are mentioned here because I know Chan and Changbin especially aren't the kind of guys to just sit back and let something like that happen. I'd say it's a group of his non-idol friends, but I'm just speculating. The tweet specifically reads his friends know and are hurt too. That could imply SKZ found out later on when it was too late, which would support the getting kicked out theory. My only issue with this is that Chan made it seem like Woojin broke promises, which is why I don't think this is necessarily related to Woojin leaving the group. I think it's more likely that this happened after W left the group they were in and that the guys who were there at the time felt bad for being bystanders and letting it happen. A1 being anonymous makes a lot of sense, too. Usually when false accusations are made against idols, the accuser isn't usually completely anonymous. However, if you're a victim of SA in Korea, it makes a lot of sense to keep this somewhat private because you don't want to bring shame to the family, but thankfully this is slowly changing with cases like this. Also, there's the K-pop element. K-pop stans have so much reach and power. A1's life could become a living hell if they didn't remain anonymous. Another thing I found odd was the doing it all statement about A1 seeing W out after the incident. I don't really blame them for not stepping in since the trauma sounds quite fresh. Korea is filled with security cameras, so it's actually hard not to get this kind of thing caught on camera. I guess whether or not they could be used as evidence depends on how the tapes are stored. The last thing I want to bring up is the self-blame. I think this is the most compelling part to me, because someone faking this wouldn't really make this kind of statement. I want to make it clear to everyone that if you have ever been a victim of sexual assault, you have to know it is not your fault. Rape has no dress code, no gender and no age. That's something everyone should know. People have pointed out that A1 should have gone to the authorities, and I initially agreed with it until I thought it through from A1's perspective. Firstly, it's hard to come forward about assault, especially in a place like Korea. I'd suggest that A1 actually posted this first as a stepping stone to muster up the courage to tell the police what happened. Alternatively, TIV may have already gone to authorities and have been told there isn't enough evidence, which is why they are coming forward in hopes that others will. It's harder to ignore with more victims. I'll get more into the legal side later on. Now for Woojin's statement. A lot of people and media sources were using the Instagram translation. Never trust a social media app's inbuilt translation, otherwise you'll end up believing Jimin and Namjoon are in fact dating. This is the accurate translation. Yes, it is quite similar to the Instagram one, but I'll point out that the initial translation was quite brash and unprofessional. I also don't think he was promoting his solo activities per se. He was just letting people know that he now has a label that will be handling the situation from this point onwards and that he'll be keeping fans updated. We're all skeptical about the company part though, since their logo matches a furniture store. However, it seems that, after all the investigating into logos and official Korean business documents, that 10X Entertainment is, in fact, legit. They've released documents to prove so, and DKDKTV also found more official documentation to support this. The company is renting a pretty pricey building, and as much as people want to speculate, I don't think Woojin has enough money to have been funding a lie. Especially not since July when the company was established, as there wasn't even a whisper of allegations. It does make sense that they scouted him before going public and that they would be dictating certain behaviors, but they should still be creative enough to come up with their own official logo. Now the way this was handled, if this is a real company, was so stupid. Firstly, don't have one of your first social media posts be defending the only artist your label has. Secondly, this account is so new that this looks way too sketchy, especially if the only person they follow is Woojin, and their websites it's literally just links to their social media. They have since updated it from the weird emoji pop star guy with 2 links to a page covered in their logo and all their media links. They should have published a proper website, even if it was just the beta test version. Woojin would have been better having Kevin Phillips make a statement on his behalf, since they are already known to be linked to one another. An update on the last video. Kevin Phillips is actually just an event organizing business. Apparently Woojin is friends with some of the people that work for the company, thus they helped him hold that mini fan meet concert. The major red flag is the statement that he never met this person and has never been to the bar that was mentioned. That's just the thing. No bar was even mentioned, nor a specific day, and the victim has remained anonymous. I think this post was in response to another person that came forward and accused Woojin by name. Let's call this person Q. Q said that he was drinking alone and liked Western body types, which is seemingly why he approached Q. We'll come back to this mess in a minute. The statement seemed to discredit both A1 and Q by saying they were the ones that deleted the account when they could have just said that it has since been deleted or no longer exists. The language used is quite defensive. Which does make sense since they are trying to salvage what is left of Woojin's deteriorating reputation. That's where Q comes back in. Q's allegations were fake and has supposedly admitted to it. 10X has said they will release footage at a later date to prove that the photo Q for evidence, that supposedly had Woojin and his jumper in the photo, was taken by a man who visited that particular bar recently. This regular Korean citizen whom has no ties to Woojin at all had to come forward with a statement when people found the photo used as evidence had been posted on his account on the 31st of August. The alleged victim claimed the offense took place back in April, and I don't know how anyone other than her friend, that she was supposed to have sent the photo to, go their hands on it. It's a lot more likely she found some random guy's photo and decided to use it. I know I may be sounding harsh, but if A1 is telling the truth, this is going to make it so much harder to prove. I also would like to apologize to this guy on behalf of the K-pop community. People were asking him to explain himself when he probably had no clue about what was going on. To those responsible, please don't jump to conclusions and be polite about this stuff, oh my lord. I just thought I'd point out that Woojin's account has actually been deactivated at the time of recording this. What I have covered so far is all alleged information, but also is what seems the most credible since it's what kicked off the whole scandal. The less credible stuff kind of spins me out. To start off with, NCT Jungwoo was also accused but quickly debunked. I'm pretty sure he was only brought into this whole thing because he also has Woo in his name, and that the only Korean character we were given to clue us in on who the guilty party could be. He is also part of the Big Three, as NCT is under SM Entertainment, however he is clearly still in the group. Something that only Stays or Cubs would know is that Woojin is a former SM trainee and is close with a lot of NCT members, including Jungwoo. All the other idols that were considered didn't completely fit the description, as either they weren't from one of the big three or they were too young to even get into a bar. It's rumored that Korean Stays actually knew about his promiscuous and dodgy behavior. Apparently he got a fan site pregnant, and I don't know why people aren't talking about this more. If this is true, do a paternity test. That also gives more credibility to A1 and everyone else who's come forward. Oh, and get you coin. Raising a baby costs so much, and I'm sure that he's in the financial position to at least help to pay for his child. There's also been a large amount of compilations surfacing to do with issues between Woojin and the Stray Kids members when he was back in the group. I'm not going to talk about what he has allegedly done to them out of respect for the boys, but I'll quickly go through a few moments that do seem a bit strange. The US interviews from their tour actually look like they must have been in an argument during that period of the tour, because there is some kind of tension there. Either that or they are all extremely tired, which is more than fair. I did notice back at the time how withdrawn Woojin was in the interviews. One that I found really compelling was of Woojin hitting Minho in the face. It really does look like it was intentional, and I don't really see genuine remorse in his actions. If it was an accident, then Minho would kind of be laughing, too, but he's clearly in pain. The fact that Woojin didn't switch into caring HeeJung mode after realizing Minho isn't laughing doesn't sit well with me. Another popular one is Felix saying 7 brothers instead of 8 at the Sydney concert. I can actually debunk this from my experience at the Melbourne concert. Soonmin was injured, so had to sit off to one end of the stage, and there were a few times that he was accidentally forgotten. Exhibit A.
Right now, Iron's not with us, so we'll go with HeeJung. Oh, no, it was Soonmin.
Exhibit B.
So what I'd like to say is just coming back with HeeJung, Changbin 형, Woojin 형, Chan 형, Inu 형, Hani, Seungmin이, and Ian. Everyone together coming here. It was really a dream.
Felix could have done a quick head count and then been like, wait, Soonmin. I did find a few more things that stood out to me. In Changbin's ending meant, he said they want to come back with the 9 of them all healthy.
좀 더 발전하고 좀 더 성장해서 저희 스트레이키즈 9명 한 명도 다침 없이 와서 멋있는 무대 보여드리겠습니다.
We want to come back again to Australia as a 9, everyone being safe and happy, back in Australia, have a great concert.
He did have a kind of weird look on his face when it was Woojin's turn though. Also, I died when he looked at me. Oh, and this one security guard clowned him, so y'all can enjoy that.
찬이랑 필릭스한테 정말
He actually had some of the most meaningful words during his ment.
Especially Felix, because he hasn't been able to come back to Australia ever since he left for being an idol.
I didn't really see anything off other than Felix's comment. I think this might have been before things got bad. My take on all of this is that things deteriorated during Mirror or Yellowwood promotions. I'm pretty sure this particular event happened after he left the company due to the way A1 mentioned he was no longer part of the group but was still using their name, and also the phrasing of the letter. Others were saying it would explain why he was removed so suddenly, but from Shan's post, it seems like the whole thing had been going behind the scenes for a far while. As much as I hate to admit it, I don't think Woojin will face any kind of penalty. A slap on the wrist type of punishment if anything, and I'm sure that anyone familiar with the Burning Sun scandal wouldn't be surprised about that. This all come down to one clear issue that Korea is having a lot of trouble overcoming, more than the rest of the world. That would be gender equality and appreciation of the Me Too movement. There's a long history in Korea with sexual harassment and assault charges being filed and barely getting a result. For those in the entertainment industry or government positions, the most they get is a slap on the wrist. We saw this with the Burning Sun scandal, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other cases that will make your blood boil. The Me Too movement is ever growing, the center of attention being on misogyny and sexual abuse in Korea. The spy camera issue is something most people are warned about when visiting Korea, especially after 2 men were arrested for allegedly filming over a total of 1,600 guests in 30 hotels. A governor and potential presidential candidate sexually assaulted a female aide. He got 3.5 years. That's nothing compared to Australia's penalty range, which is anywhere between 12 and 20 years. The worst one I think I've heard was director Kim Kiduk being arrested for sexual and physical abuse of an actress. The charges were dropped due to lack of evidence and he decided to sue the women's organization that campaigned for the victim for 300 million won. Charming. There are plenty more stories, including the investigation into the death of actress Jang Jae-in. I'll link the article in the description. Before I wrap this all up, I want to let everyone know the initial reason I went into this with a neutral stance. I've seen some posts saying that people would rather side with a liar than an abuser, because it's easier to forgive someone who lied than to admit you had supported someone who was in the wrong for something this horrendous. I can't say I agree with this. The real issue I want to address is that it is never okay to lie about something as serious as sexual assault, whether the person is lying about their involvement or it even happening. Please put yourself in the shoes of someone who is a victim. It takes a lot of courage to admit it to yourself and to not only deal with the trauma, but have to relive it over and over again whenever it comes to mind. It takes even more courage to come forward about your experience. You have to repeat what happened to you over and over again. In the interview room, in court, in counseling, and you have to continue to put yourself through it just to attempt to get justice for yourself. Every time someone is found to be lying about sexual assault, the harder it becomes for real victims to come forward and get justice. It's the little boy who cried wolf story personified. The more people that lie about something, the less likely people are to believe them when it really happens. Not only that, but the person who was accused but was actually innocent would have their entire life ruined. Woojin's reputation is far from redeemable now, and I can't say if that's a good thing or a bad thing until the full truth comes out. If you want an example of how this has ruined people in the industry before, think about BI from iKON or Wonho from Monster X. Their careers have gone a completely different direction, but thankfully they both seem to be back on track. It's easy to jump on the hate wagon. Just make sure you're full educated on what's going on before you do something you regret. Honestly, I literally was left feeling the same way about this case as I was after watching that Criminal UK episode that had Kit Harington in it.
And on the Monday afternoon, when she's back in the office, neither of us mentions it. It's not until today, that's basically a week later, that your lot turn up and start with all this shit. And this shit's gonna ruin me.
The main takeaway here is that there are 3 sides to the story: his, theirs, and the truth. Hopefully we'll find out what that is soon. Anyway, that's it from me today. It was actually so cool to be able to use my uni work in a video for once. I actually felt productive. I might ended up making this into a mini series about the 3 sides in pop scandals. Congratulations to our boys on their first win for Backdoor, and their second win today on M Countdown. Literally backing track who. Also, I just wanted to thank all of you for the really wholesome comments I got on the other video. You guys made me laugh and made me feel like all my hard work was worth it. Also, thank you for 200 subscribers and the amount of views that video got. I was in shock for about a week. Please leave some comments on other kinds of things you'd like to see from me, and until next time.
엔딩 요정 대기 간다. 똑똑똑. 똑똑똑. You wanna come in?